Hi guys, I'm experimenting with some new lighting here, so hopefully everything looks and feels okay. So Okja is a Netflix original movie starring Ahn Seo-hyun, Tilda Swinton, Paul Dano, Stephen Yeun, Jake Gyllenhaal, Giancarlo Esposito, Lily Collins, Daniel Henshall, Devon Bostick, and Hee Bong-byun, and is directed by Bong Joon-Ho. Wow, I actually remembered all that. It tells the story of Mija, played by Ahn Seo-hyun, growing up with her grandfather, played by Hee Bong-byun, and their genetically modified, all CGI encompassing pet super pig named Okja, all together growing up in a mountainous area of Korea. The Super Pig was secretly created by Mirando Corp, a large American meat harvesting corporation led by CEO Lucy Mirando, played by Tilda Swinton, when television wildlife frontman expert Johnny Wilcox, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, discovers Okja, Mirando wants to buy her. After successfully doing so, Mija goes on a mission to retain Okja from this corporation, traversing all the way to Seoul and then to New York City, where she then teams up with a terrorist organization, Animal Liberation Front, ALF, led by Paul Dano, Daniel Henshall, Lily Collins, and Devon Bostick. What starts out as a fluffy companion piece between man and beast then becomes a rollicking action chase film, which then becomes a sort of social commentary / satire on corporate greed and the abundantly happy-go-lucky facades of the soulless, greedy, and immoral meat-producing companies. So I was beyond excited to see this after Joon-Ho's earlier work, Snowpiercer, which is one of my all-time favourite movies, and that too, similar to Okja, had very heavy-handed themes of things like class system, balance, order, and economic equality. Clearly Okja looked much bigger in scale than Snowpiercer. The trailers alone, amongst the unfinished-looking CGI, showed lots of fast, busy chase scenes and chaos in big cities involving a large beastie, and I was very interested to see where Joon-Ho would take that. On some levels, it absolutely works, though it's certainly not perfect, which I'll get into. But first up, the CGI looks fantastic in the final product. I mean, Okja and the general action scenes are really, really well handled. The central performance by Seo-hyun is perhaps the best part of the movie, playing a sort of determined and sometimes uncooperative in all the right places central lead. She shows emotion really well, and I was wondering if she does her own stunts. There's parkour-esque scenes of running down mountains and running through big cities like Seoul and New York and riding on top of trucks and there's scenes that would challenge the likes of Tom Cruise. The film also wasn't afraid to show her getting hurt with things like swollen shut eyes, busted lips, bruises. A more kid-oriented action film would probably shy away from showing that kind of pain. I'd almost compare this to Pan's Labyrinth, certainly not in tone or pace, but in the sense that it's this action sci-fi fantasy movie with a young girl being the central lead and her playful pet, but it's by no means a kids movie. As mentioned, it's quite violent, and there's lots of swearing, and there's disturbing scenes that take place in sort of animal enclosures and abattoirs and that kind of thing. Tilda Swinton is excellent as Lucy Mirando, and there's sort of something that happens with her character towards the end, which I won't spoil because I didn't know going in, but it's the kind of thing that really showcases Tilda Swinton's acting abilities. In a way, Okja does feel like two different films in one, and people have kind of described it as tonally all over the place, but the only jarring thing I think was that the second half, after Paul Dano and his ALF team come in, it really feels like a completely different movie to the first half, where the first half was sort of Mija and Okja and Mija chasing after Okja. The second half kind of is very different. The introduction of Paul Dano's character also came with a large exposition dump, which kind of carried on throughout the rest of the film, unfortunately. But shockingly, the biggest flaw of this film for me was one of my favourite actors working today, Jake Gyllenhaal. It was like he was told by somebody, and I hope to God it wasn't Bong, to instead of act like a character, or even a caricature of a character, just scream and go crazy. And in fact, Jake, just don't even act at all. Just shriek and go nuts and pull stupid faces, and we will film it. Here's what you want to do, Jake. You want to go home from work each day with sprained muscles and having lost your voice due to your shrieking performance. I just think someone needed to rein Jake in a little. I mean, to just shriek and go nuts on camera really isn't sufficient directing of actors, and believe me, in a film directed by Bong Joon-Ho with the likes of Jake Gyllenhaal acting in it, the last thing I want to do is have to say that it seemed like there was insufficient directing of actors. By the end, I was satisfied, but I perhaps wasn't as emotionally swept up as the film intended. The last half hour, not to give anything away, but there's a lot of super pigs around, and the only distinguishable thing between Okja and the rest were when Meija would shout out Okja. I think Okja herself could have used a sort of more of a personality or just a character trait that would separate her from the rest so that we could connect with and get to know her a little better. There was also a parade scene approximately midway through where I just didn't feel the tension or suspense that the film seemed to be trying to go for. And I think this could just be because of a too bloated cast and too many sort of busy extras milling about. But overall, Okja is mostly a likeable, entertaining, consistently fast-paced film that doesn't come off as vegan propaganda, which I think is important for it not to do. It doesn't discourage me as a carnivorous meat eater to stop eating meat in any way, and it will probably also appeal to kind of a wider audience than Snowpiercer, which isn't a bad thing. But overall, that's Okja for me, guys. Let me know down below what you think, and thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe. Why not? You know? Why not?